You don't want to come into an interview with your bonnet on. Present yourself in a respectful, respectable, and professional manner. Smacking and chewing gum, inappropriate, rude, disrespectful. Hello everyone, welcome back to Poised with Purpose Co. and welcome to a new episode in the Etiquette series. Today's episode is all about interview etiquette. Of course, I have my notebook of notes here with me as well as my etiquette book. And I like to reference this book because I like to follow a lot of Emily Post's tips with her etiquette. I think that this is probably one of the most known etiquette books to get some information and research from. Now, this is the 17th edition, and in this book, it does not specify interview etiquette. It does talk about your job. Chapter 5 about dress and grooming, so I will be referencing that, and I will be reading off the first paragraph because it really resonated with me when it comes to how you should be dressing and casual versus business casual, dressing for the occasion, etc. And that's just as important for your interview. So let's get started. I'm not going to mislead you all into thinking that I am elegant every single day of my life because it's simply not true. But I do want to share some tips about interview etiquette because I don't see this discussed enough. And coming out of a time where we were all at home and we were more casually dressed, and now that people go to more in-person events and attend certain things where you have to have a certain dress code, I think that this is very important. Let's dive in. First, I'd like to go ahead and read the paragraph in the chapter 5 of Emily Post's book. So, dress and grooming. It's no secret that in 21st century America, casual has trumped more formal ways of dressing. Emily Post, no doubt, would have approved of this shift in style. She was very practical and favored using common sense to make everyday life a little easier. But even in this go-go world, casual should never be sloppy or inappropriate. The clothes we wear and the way we groom ourselves represent how we choose to present ourselves to others and reflect the importance we attach to the occasion. The more significance we assign to an event or activity, whether a worship service, a night at the theater, or a last-minute get-together with friends, the more thought we should give to dressing. Individuality and personal expression have their place, but the principles of respect and consideration for others, plus a healthy dose of common sense, should underline all dressing and grooming decisions. So I'm going to be referencing my notes here in my notebook when it specifically comes to interview etiquette. Now, I wanted to talk about dress and grooming because what you might wear to a cocktail party or to a more casual party, you probably should not be wearing in an interview. So maybe something that you would wear to a sleepover or a girls' night, you would not roll out of bed and decide that's the outfit that's appropriate for an interview. Let's start with in preparation. We're going to start with in-person interviews because I believe that the online or digital interviews can have a little bit of a difference. So we're going to focus on the in preparation for the in-person interview. I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ, so I believe that you should be praying before you go into an interview. Not everyone's going to agree with that, but just praying for the discernment of whether or not the Lord has it in His will for you to have this position is actually pretty important to me. So I tend to pray and ask for His guidance a couple of days or even weeks leading up to the interview to get peace and discernment from Him, but also just before the interview, just so that you can get clarity on the words you want to say, when you want to answer the questions, and how you like to be presented, just to have some peace, because some people do struggle with nervousness before interviews. So I would say the first point is pray before going into your interview. It's also very important to know what kind of interview this is. Is it corporate? Is it something that's more business casual? Is it something that's volunteer where you're not actually getting paid? Is it something where it's directly in your industry pertaining to your degree? Are there certain questions that you're going to have to ask at the end of the interview? Know what you're going in for. And that might mean you have to inquire when the person reaches out to you to schedule an interview. You always want to be prepared. What kind of dress is appropriate for the interview? I'm going to be specifically talking more to my ladies because my audience is predominantly women. So I'm going to be talking about the grooming of a lady. So hygiene, of course, is very important in preparation for your interview. You don't want to just look like you rolled out of bed. You don't want to come into an interview with your bonnet on. You don't want to come dressed in t-shirt and jeans unless it makes sense for that job. But say you're going into a corporate office and you have to wear a business suit or a business two-piece set with a skirt and a blouse. That's going to look different. Now, in my opinion, I believe a lot of work environments have become very, very casual, and that's just aside from the past 4 years. I believe even prior to 2020, things were becoming more casual and there were no boundaries set. And I think it's important that when you're in an interview to know how to speak in an interview, to know what kind of language and verbiage to use, so you will not be using foul language, vulgar language. Try to refrain from using slang and everyday friendly language that you would use with your friends or your family. You want to remain professional. And this to me goes for no matter what level of expertise this particular position is, whether that means you're working on a farm or you're interviewing to work in a restaurant. You still want to have an air of professionalism about yourself because you are presenting yourself as a candidate for this position. You want whoever is interviewing you to want to hire you. So what else comes within preparation for this? Your hygiene. Make sure that if it's an interview that's in person, you have washed your body. You have showered, you have washed up, you've brushed your teeth, you've scraped your tongue, you've flossed, you've rinsed out your mouth, you've done things that are a part of good hygiene, and that is a huge part of etiquette as well. You also want to make sure that your clothes are pressed. I highly encourage you all to make sure your clothes are paired the night before. This actually is what I like to do, whether that's going in for an interview or preparing for my work day, because this gives you the opportunity to do more things in the morning and not scavenging around to look for clothing that is appropriate for whatever the event pertains to. Hair. There is a huge misconception that wearing your natural hair in interviews is unacceptable and unhygienic. I don't agree with that. So when it comes to preparing for your interview, I find it very important, and that employers really enjoy this as well, is when you come prepared to the interview with at least 3 to 5 questions. I have some examples of these questions for you in case you don't know what I mean, but at the end of an interview, typically employers will ask, do you have any questions pertaining to the job, pertaining to the tasks, etc. So for example, here is one question. In one word, how would you describe your team? This gives the employer a chance to think about how they would describe the work environment and who they have authority over. So if it's a supervisor or a manager, you want to pay attention to how they would describe the work environment and how they're able to team build within their company. Another question would be more of an individual question when it comes to what they're looking for in a candidate. So another good question would be, what are the traits of a successful candidate for this role? Who do you look up to on your team, and how have they impacted the success and efficiency of the company or team? When you are being asked questions in regards to the role, usually in the pre-preparation, you want to have the answers to why you are the best candidate for that role. Practice those answers in the mirror, practice with a friend or a relative to make sure that you are able to express and verbally communicate why you believe you are the best fit for this role. All right, ladies, let's discuss accessories. So today I have an example for you about my dress and what I'm wearing to accessorize with it. We don't need to be dressing up for an interview looking so busy. We don't want to put every single piece of jewelry on. We don't want to wear a bold lip, a bold eye. So today I have very minimal accessories on. I just have some earrings because the dress kind of speaks for itself. The dress is from GOELIA, by the way, and the earrings are an Amazon find, so I will link them below. But I don't have any bracelets. I don't have a necklace on. I've kept it very simple. I think that this is a very appropriate outfit for an interview. It is a dress, it's not too revealing, it's comfortable, and it has the lapels up here that kind of mimic a suit jacket or a business jacket. So I think that this is an appropriate work-related interview appropriate dress. So they will ask you for references and your resume typically. Not all the time, but a lot of the time they ask for your resume and your professional or personal references. Here are some tips when it comes to references that I personally had to learn. Make sure you have permission from your references to list them as references. Not just for interviews for jobs, but also for your college applications. Make sure that when they ask you for references, that you ask permission. Also inquire as to whether or not that reference writes evergreen reference letters. This is a letter that one can store and reuse. So say you're applying to multiple jobs and you want to use the same reference for that. That might mean that you can use that same letter for multiple jobs. There are some people who do not do evergreen letters. You may ask someone to be a reference for a job and you just told them about one, but you're actually applying to 5. They're only expecting to be contacted once, and now their phone is ringing or they're getting several emails from 5 different employers when you only let them know that you were applying to 1. Make sure that you're letting them know the different things you're applying to so that they're aware, and ask them permission if it's okay to use them as a reference. Timeliness. Let's talk about what time you should be at your interview in person as well as virtually. When it comes to your in-person interview, I personally believe it is important to be there 10 to 15 minutes early. Why 10 to 15 minutes early? This gives you time to feel out the environment, to check for your clothing, to check your teeth, your hygiene, everything to prepare yourself. This gives you time to relax and gather yourself so that you're prepared to answer the questions in your interview. Especially if you are someone that gets nervous or anxious in this process, this gives you some extra time to collect your thoughts and collect yourself. When it comes to a virtual interview, I think it's important to be 5 to 10 minutes early, because usually they have a password or an access code for you to access the virtual interview. And being right on time, I mean, sure, some people don't mind that, and sometimes that person's actually the one running late. But sometimes it's great to be 5 minutes early because they may have already logged on, and if they're early, they may want to start the interview a couple minutes early. This also gives you some extra time to double check to make sure that your audio and your camera are working. As I've reiterated, present yourself in a respectful, respectable, and professional manner. I am always the one that's a note taker. As you see, I have a notebook, and I always have so many notebooks laying around, but bring a paper, a pen, a notebook, a planner, whatever helps you to write down notes and to write down dates and important information within the interview. Most of the time, the employer is giving you quite a bit of information. When you bring a pen or a pencil with you, make sure that it works. Make sure that the pencil was sharpened, make sure the pen has ink and it works. And if someone's uncomfortable being in person, they're ill, they have a cold or whatever, or you have a cold, you might want to bring a mask. It's just that time for us. So that is something to consider as well. Perfume, cologne, your scent. Try not to wear something that is so heavily scented, because you don't know what allergies or sensitivities the person that's interviewing you may have. Plus, wearing heavy perfumes, they can stick to your clothing, and you may not be able to smell it as heavily on you, but you don't know how other people may react. So keep it very simple, keep it very light. Just make sure that you smell clean. Smacking and chewing gum. Inappropriate, rude, disrespectful. If you have any more tips of what not to do in an interview, besides like asking personal questions and things like that, write it in the comments below. Share some of your stories below. Let's talk about post the interview. So I have some notes here. After the interview, again, make sure you do ask those 3 to 5 questions. Thank the interviewer for their time. This is just a part of basic manners and etiquette. You're thanking that person for even giving you the consideration and the time to have an interview. Express your excitement of hearing back from them. Usually, they will let you know when you will receive a follow-up call, email, whatever it is that they use to communicate with you. Express that you're really looking forward to hearing back from them. When it comes to the virtual interview, or maybe even a phone call interview, that's a whole nother one, make sure the call has ended. Lastly, I'd like to share, respond to any follow-up emails to show that you are engaged and proactive for the position. This is especially important if they have already sent you an email thanking you for taking the time to do the interview. Send a response. Don't just leave them hanging. They want to know that you are actively interested in the position. Even if it's a job that you don't really want, but you just need a job, still, it is a part of basic manners, it is a courtesy, and it just shows that you are proactively wanting to be a candidate that is seriously considered for the position. Leave in the comments below any more tips that you have for that portion. Moving on to the online interview. So, I think a really big point for this one is to make sure that you check for your mic and your audio and your camera to make sure it's all working. And do this before the interview. I don't mean 15 minutes before. I mean a day or two before. Whatever device you're using, whether that's your phone, an iPad, a laptop, a desktop computer. For some reason I couldn't say that word. Slow down. Another thing in your interviews, slow down your speech. You want to make sure that your devices are hooked up properly and that they are functioning correctly. When you're doing a virtual interview, make sure you're in a neutral background. So don't have your unmade or even your made bed in the background. That's not very professional. Make sure that you're in front of a wall or something that's very neutral, that people can't really tell that you're in your bedroom, or golly, I hope people aren't in their bathroom. Make sure the background is neutral so that it does not distract from the interview. We've been very casual. We might dress up nicely up top and then in the bottom we're wearing pajamas. And while that's functioning and it works because, you know, people can't see that lower half of you, you also want to make sure that you are presentable in the virtual interview. If you have any more tips for virtual interviews, please leave them in the comments below. If you are new to my channel, or you simply are not new to my channel and you have been subscribed for a while, you know that I run a stationery business. And what I've just said in this etiquette episode, I have shared the importance of having a notebook or some paper with you when you're in your interviews. If you are looking for a new, fresh journal for the spring, or to just have a fresh start for your journals, look no further. I have tons available on my Etsy shop. For example, I have the Bloom Darling journal. It's floral, it's very pretty, and it's a functioning thing for if you go to your interview. It's lined, you can just write your notes in here. I also have the Poised journal, which is my very first journal I ever created, and this also is very pretty and just something that you can utilize for interviews, for planning, etc. I also have the Soft Lady Living journals, and if you are interested in any of my journals, I will have them all linked below. I did share that I have my Ballerinas and Bows journals as well, so if you are interested in just refreshing your journals, getting a new journal for the spring season, support a small business today. I thought I would go ahead and share that. Also, isn't this pen just so darling? I got it from a small shop called With Love, and it just matches my earrings beautifully. I think that's so cute. POV, you are a stationery addict. Thank you all so much for joining me on this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Please like, share, and leave a comment below on your favorite tip, or leave some suggestions and tips of your own for interview etiquette. Anything that I may have missed, anything that you would add on to my tips, I would love to engage with you and read them below, and you will be helping some other people as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.